He replied calmly, I understand. They have probably already received the mission details and declined to join. Kettle then scanned the area. 3 other mercenaries froze under his gaze. Fewer people than I expected. He rested his hand under his chin, pondering. The mission seems simple, but the reward is high. I would expect more applicants. Yet there are fewer than 10 people in total. Hayes explained, it is simple in theory, but the reward is extremely generous. She lowered her gaze, recalling something. There is a rumor that the previous guards never returned. She added quietly, so maybe this is not such a simple mission after all. Kettle looked up, slightly incredulous. Even so few participants, I would expect at least 10. Hayes shifted uncomfortably. Well, actually. She averted her eyes and continued in a hushed tone, there is another rumor going around. What rumor? Hayes waved it off with a laugh, ha, and followed the direction she indicated. A small, pale face with long white hair came into view. Aquaz was sitting with her eyes closed, hands neatly placed in front of her gown. The armored silhouette of the Sun God's Inquisition officer suddenly appeared. She would also be participating in this mission. Hayes glanced sideways silently, thinking that not many mercenaries would dare cooperate with the Sun God's Inquisition officer. Still, she voiced her concern anxiously. She is not planning to cut me in half, is she? Kettle immediately smiled reassuringly. Nothing like that. She is a really good person. Hayes was startled. Wait, you know Miss Aquaz? Kettle confidently turned toward Aquaz. Of course. She is my friend. Hearing this, Aquaz was shocked. A Sun God Inquisitor, friends with a Mandi. Hayes, flustered, called after him as Kettle moved forward. Ah, Kettle. Kettle stepped closer, stopping a short distance from Aquaz, and greeted warmly, it is good to see you again. She quickly responded with a denial. I do not remember us ever being friends. Kettle suddenly laughed. Ah, you have heard me now. Well then, from now on, we can be friends. Aquaz averted her gaze briefly, then added, and your companion serves another deity, right? She closed her eyes to add the detail, I mean Miss Calrosia. Kettle blinked in surprise, realizing, oh, so she is like her too. Yet Aquaz still seemed puzzled. Yes, but wait, you said she is a priestess serving Kolocha. Kettle tilted his head. Is that a problem? Aquaz recalled the image of a woman with long black hair and answered, number. It is just that, as far as I know, the followers of Miss Calrosia are currently in a period of seclusion. Only those of high status can act at this time. Don't tell me that. Aquaz sighed, looking weary, and ended the thought. No, it is nothing. I can't know all the details of every faith, so maybe I was mistaken. At that moment, the sound of boots stomping on the grass reached them. He is here. Kettle quickly noticed and turned to look. As soon as he saw the newcomer, he instinctively called out, Captain of the Royal Guard. The captain greeted him warmly. Good to see you all here again. Hayes stood at a distance, watching their interaction anxiously. The captain cleared his throat and addressed the group. I welcome everyone who accepted this request. I am the captain of the Ghent Royal Guard. Now that everyone is present, we shall depart. 2 pairs of feet moved one after the other across the lush green grass. Aquaz glanced away, seemingly avoiding the figure walking ahead. Kettle pondered quietly, all of us gathered like this. It feels like we are about to enter a dungeon. He let out a soft sigh in his mind. Then Kettle asked a question that caught Aquaz slightly off guard. Acting now. Does that mean the time has come? She lifted her face to look at the man standing silently before them. Aquaz lowered her gaze again. That, I am not entirely sure. She guessed that the deity would not reveal the exact timing. Perhaps it was as simple as the fact that a village had gone silent. Kettle, who had been silent until now, finally spoke in a calm tone, but that still leaves a possibility. Aquaz, startled, asked again, the god. Did it speak of evil descending, the emergence of a great demon? Kettle smiled, a confident gleam in his eyes. A great demon, huh? Both Kettle and Priest Hayes were struck with astonishment at the scene before them. After a while, everyone came to a halt, and a voice announced, we have arrived. Amidst an area ordered and structured by ancient architecture, a curious voice asked, this is. The captain of the Barkan Guard quickly explained, this is the entrance to the village. Kettle turned to Aquas, gauging her reaction. What do you feel? She answered plainly, I do not sense any presence. The captain speculated, then perhaps they have fled. Everyone, disperse and look for clues. The soldiers immediately obeyed. Yes, sir. Kettle followed along, acknowledging, understood. The Barkhan guard captain noted that this village could hold only about 100 people, yet he found it impossible that everyone had vanished without a trace. He was certain there had to be some clue and issued the order. Begin the search. Inside one of the houses, the dining table still emitted wisps of steam, neatly arranged. A soldier, surprised, shouted, What is this? He immediately turned to report to the commander. Captain, there is food here. The captain dismissed it casually, perhaps they left it behind while fleeing. The soldier interjected, No, that is not it. He shouted, emphasizing, It is freshly cooked, the food is still warm. Even the Barkhan guard captain was taken aback. What? Staring at the steaming bowl of soup, he wondered silently, what on earth is happening here? He began piecing together the events in his mind. We lost contact with this village a few days ago, and since then, several people have been sent to investigate. The soldiers stood in formation, disciplined and straight, yet not a single one had returned. He turned again to gather more information. Any traces? A soldier answered honestly, There is no sign that anyone left the village, nor any indication they might be hiding elsewhere. The Barkhan guard captain lowered his eyes, lost in thought for a moment. After a pause, he announced, For now, keep searching. The soldiers immediately obeyed. Yes, sir. The question weighed heavily on everyone's mind, so many signs of daily life, yet not a single person. How is this possible? The captain walked behind a soldier who was searching and asked, What about over there? The soldier turned around, slightly startled. Ah. He scratched his head, replying sheepishly, Same as here. Reporting with clear suspicion, he added, Clearly someone lives here, but there is no one around, no footprints, nothing. The captain asked another soldier, Do you know anything, Aquas? But Aquas just shook her head in defeat. I do not know either. He turned to Kettle. What about you? Any idea? Still, there was no satisfactory answer. I have not discovered any significant clues, and I can't sense any presence at all. The captain, anxious, lowered his head and muttered in frustration. This is driving me insane. Kettle offered a suggestion. Maybe we should ask someone who might know. The Barkhan guard captain's eyes widened. What did you say? Kettle casually glanced to one side. Isn't there still someone here? There is another presence. The captain, stunned, asked again. Wait, what do you mean, another presence? Only then did the Barkhan guard captain start to connect the dots. In other words, this was someone who was not here when we first arrived at the village. So now the question is, who is this woman, and how long has she been here? At that moment, the woman revealed herself, letting out a soft chuckle. Interesting, she mused. I disguised myself perfectly, and yet you discovered me. Kettle responded calmly. A stranger appeared suddenly. Naturally, we have to pay attention. She began to explain. No, that is not what I mean. Usually, no one would notice. Then, with a trace of sarcasm aimed at Aquas, she added, Even the heretic inspector of the sun god would not have detected me. And finally, with a hint of disdain directed at Kettle, she sneered, HMPH. It seems you have not awakened any special abilities just yet. A sly smile curled on her lips. And who exactly are you? Kettle was still bewildered by the unexpected question. At that moment, the Barkhan guard captain sensed danger immediately. He shouted, Everyone, fall back. The soldiers quickly complied. Yes, sir. Yet he was stunned when he looked toward Aquas, exclaiming, Aquas. She stood completely still, her face pale. I do not sense anything. No presence at all. The Barkhan guard captain was utterly astonished. Priest Hayes, witnessing the scene, felt equally unsettled, sharing the captain's shock. Even the heretic inspector of the highest-ranking order had not detected her presence. That left only two possibilities: either she was not a demon, or she was such a high-level demon that detection was impossible. The woman rested her chin on her hand, her words dripping with mockery. What a pity. I was hoping to observe you for a while before pushing him into the abyss. The skin on her face slowly began to shift and melt, curling into a grotesque grin at the corner of her mouth. HMPH. I have made up my mind about that interesting man-beast. Her hand had transformed, twisted and monstrous, the sight sending chills down anyone who looked. From her head, a black, ominous horn sprouted, completing the terrifying transformation. Her new form radiated malevolent power as she spoke in a haunting tone, "You will become my slave. And descend into hell with me." After revealing her true form, Ashishier snapped her fingers. Immediately, a dark circle and emblem of black magic manifested beneath her. She hovered above the ground, enveloped by swirling black clouds that twisted around her body. Even this single, small action left everyone staring in stunned disbelief. Sensing the imminent danger, the captain of the royal guard shouted, "Everyone, run, move quickly. Hurry." But it was already too late. They were trapped within the sealing circle Ashishier had just conjured. The guards panicked, screaming, "No, open it, release us." The scene brought Ashishier immense satisfaction. "This entire village is my domain. No one can escape." Not content with mere domination, she taunted them further, "You are all my prey." Whispers of alarm spread like wildfire. "A demon? Impossible. How can a demon be here?" Kettle furrowed his brow. "A demon?" Priest Hayes nodded gravely. "Yes, a named demon." Meanwhile, she silently prayed, "Lord Kolocha, please save me." Kettle placed a reassuring hand on her head. "Hayes, stay calm." He added soothingly, "I am right here with you." Priest Hayes was deeply moved by his words, but that feeling shattered instantly when he asked, "But what does named demon mean?" Hayes hesitated before explaining, "Not all so-called demons in this world are truly powerful. Many are called demons merely for convenience, mere fragments of malice and dark magic. But there exist true demons born from darkness itself, without a mother, naming themselves by their own will. In short," she continued, "even the weakest among them can shake an entire kingdom." Kettle reflected for a moment. "Then that one is definitely one of them." Priest Hayes agreed. "Yes, exactly." She went on to speculate further, and judging by those horns, that is Ashishier, a demon that first appeared hundreds of years ago. Why would something like this show up in such a remote land? Kettle hesitated. "So, we can't break this." To Priest Hayes's astonishment, he reached out to touch the sealing circle. She immediately warned, "No, this place has already become the demon's domain. Unless the demon is defeated, there is no way to break this seal." After testing it, Kettle casually remarked, "Is that so?" Then, unexpectedly, he let out a sly, mischievous smile, swallowing audibly. Priest Hayes watched him, perplexed, as Kettle danced slightly in place, thinking to himself, "Well, maybe I will just stand back and observe a little longer." Curiously, she asked, "Kettle, what are you doing over there?" He quickly denied it. "Nothing at all." Priest Hayes simply nodded, understood. Meanwhile, Aquaz's anger flared. "Is this some kind of demon's trick?" Ashishier sneered mockingly, "Oh, not very interesting. Doesn't it make you want to investigate further?" Rage burned within Aquaz. A whole village vanished, yet there were signs that someone had just been living there. It was all the demon's deception. She realized silently. Perhaps it only sees the villagers as playthings. Her voice seethed with fury. What a sick game. Ashishier only smiled teasingly, while Kettle stood back, watching with morbid curiosity. They all found it bizarre. A named demon, summoning such a being should require massive sacrifices. The population of a single village would not suffice. And for an entire territory to vanish without notice, it should have been impossible. Doubt gnawed at them. Then how did it descend upon this world? Ashishier laughed scornfully. "Do you really think I would tell you?" Aquaz's wrath only intensified. She spat out, "Filth, you defile this land." The demon mocked her, "Filth, impure, are we." Then Ashishier sneered further, taunting them, "Hey, dogs of your god, do you think your deity will save you?" Unsurprisingly, these words drove Aquaz into a furious frenzy. Ashethiar's voice turned ominous. "Listen closely. Cracks are appearing in this world. This world no longer belongs solely to you." She recounted the ancient past. Long ago, gods and humans battled demons. Everyone knew the outcome. The gods and humanity triumphed, and the demons were defeated and expelled from this world. Fueled by centuries of resentment, Ashishier declared, "From the torments of hell, I have waited long for this day." She formally introduced herself. I am Ashishier, the demon of gravity. And she swore, I will avenge past humiliations and drench this world in malice. Aqua's fury flared. You vile creature, this world belongs only to the gods and us. She then demanded, return to where you came from, demon. Instantly, a brilliant light enveloped her. A staff symbolizing divine power appeared in her hands. Kettle watched intently, thinking, as I suspected, the demon won't attack while she is transforming. Aqua's transformation progressed fully. Her weapons, boots, and armor all materialized, ready for battle. Ashishier chuckled in delight. Interesting. Then the demon openly challenged her. Very well. Ashishier taunted, come here, dog of the gods. Aquas stepped forward to confront her, exuding defiance. So arrogant. Their gazes sharpened like never before. The opposing forces of demon and god colliding head-on. The impact triggered a massive explosion, shaking the sky itself. Priest Hayes screamed in terror, while Aquas and Ashishier remained locked in a fierce stalemate. Ashishier twirled her blade recklessly, exuding wild arrogance. She taunted, sneering, a battle should have its solemnity, do not your gods' hunting dogs know that? Provoked relentlessly, Aquas' fury boiled over. Through gritted teeth, she demanded, are you done yet? A massive golden armored boot slammed into the ground, sending shockwaves that cracked the earth violently. The woman clad in golden armor followed with a fierce, blazing strike, moving with lightning speed. Ashishier stood calmly across from her, enveloped in a dark aura. Her movements were so fast that afterimages of shadows swirled behind her, hazy and ghost-like. Aquar froze, astonished by the spectacle before her, her pupils glinting with disbelief. Suddenly, Ashishier appeared behind her, teasing, so, you are here. A wicked smile curled on her lips, revealing sharp teeth. Leaping from above, Ashishier launched a powerful attack. Aquar raised her weapon defensively and countered, her voice ringing out, crush it. The two clashed, shockwaves of energy exploding outward, shaking the surrounding area. The golden armored woman's footing was gradually pushed backward, leaving long cracks across the ground beneath her. Locked in this stance, they unleashed their full strength against one another, neither yielding. Above Aquar, a violet hand appeared, shattering her defenses. She recited aloud, Holy Scripture, Chapter 2, Verse 12. A pair of radiant eyes appeared in the surrounding darkness, the voice proclaiming, the light of glory shall never be defiled. Golden energy surged from her, blasting upward and hurling Ashishier away. The bat-winged demoness crashed to the ground, bracing herself to avoid being thrown further, her eyes fixed intently on the scene before her. Aquar's entire body radiated powerful energy, her golden aura blazing around her. Ashishier slowly rose, questioning, you can read scripture at that age. She wiped her face, exclaiming in admiration, impressive indeed. Aquar murmured another verse, Karmanune, Chapter 5, Verse 59, raising her weapon high as thunder boomed across the sky. Her voice echoed through the void, the golden light igniting the darkness. A searing blaze of energy erupted, scorching all evil in its path. As the incantation ended, she lunged forward, shield and weapon raised, leaving a streak of energy behind her. Ashethiar's eyes flashed red, her gaze wary of the approaching warrior. Aquar spun, swinging her weapon from behind, her hair whipping with the motion. The strike left a brilliant scar of light in the air, clashing with the surrounding dark energy. Ashishier laughed with delight, retreating quickly to avoid the direct blow. She swung her weapon down toward Aquar, who blocked the strike with her armored defense. The force was redirected, pushing Aquar back with great impact. Sweat gleamed on her face, fury burning in her eyes as she gritted her teeth. Ashethiar's smile was malicious, her eyes glinting with wicked joy. Both warriors charged again, their movements so fierce that the sky itself seemed to shift, dust and debris swirling around them. Their weapons collided, shockwaves scattering everything nearby, bursts of energy erupting violently. Two immense forces met head-on, shattering rock and earth, the resulting pressure radiating outward, obliterating everything in its path. The terrifying force slammed into Priest Hayes, making her scream in shock, eyes tightly shut. Nearby villagers were equally horrified by the scene. Some fled in panic, others collapsed, crying out, "Please! Someone save us!" The opposing forces collided, each pouring every ounce of power into the fight. Their gazes locked with unyielding determination, neither willing to back down. Explosions erupted with each clash, the ground splintering, shockwaves blowing away everything in their path. Kettle stood back, watching like a spectator, a faint smile on his lips. "Impressive," he murmured to himself. Priest Hayes hurried closer, calling out for his attention. Kettle, can't you help Aquas?" He answered nonchalantly, "I could." The words startled her. Before she could respond, he cut her off. "But why should I?" Priest Hayes froze, stunned, staring at him in disbelief. Repeating calmly, Kettle said, "Why should I intervene and ruin this battle?" Her eyes widened, speechless. He glanced at the two fighters, adding softly, "Of course. I have always wanted to fight a demon someday. But right now, I just want to watch this battle unfold." Priest Hayes' expression froze completely. Her thoughts racing, "This is not what I expected." Meanwhile, the two combatants continued their assault. Shockwaves radiated outward, sweeping away any obstacles in their path. The collision of their powers grew even more violent, forcing both back, their bodies slammed against the ground. Ashishier was pushed backward, bracing herself against the earth to avoid being thrown. The golden armored woman mirrored the action, keeping her footing firm. Ashishier muttered under her breath in irritation, "These are truly God's hunters. But in pure power, I still hold the advantage." Before she could recover, Aquar suddenly appeared right in front of her, causing Ashishier to flinch. On the defensive, Ashishier blocked the strike from the golden armored woman, thinking to herself, "Still, this mismatch is terrible. In this world, magical entities cannot withstand divine power." She swung her weapon in a sharp arc, the blade glowing with violet energy. Strategizing quickly, she thought, "If this continues, the fight will drag on too long. I need to tip the scales in my favor." Smirking cruelly, she spun her dark energy, preparing to counterattack. The plan was simple: gain the upper hand and seize victory. Without hesitation, Ashishier launched forward at incredible speed, the air around her warping with her movement. Aquar's eyes narrowed as she tracked Ashethiar's path, brows furrowing. Ashishier grinned triumphantly, dashing straight ahead. The golden armored woman calculated rapidly that direction. Seeing her aim toward the villagers, panic surged through Aquar danger. A sudden explosion erupted behind Ashishier, shattering the surrounding ground. Aquar stepped forward to block her path, the two clashing once again. The villagers, terrified, sat frozen, mouths agape, unable to move. Those who had not evacuated sat in fear, screaming helplessly at the chaos before them. Aquar glanced behind while bracing herself against Ashethiar's strike. Swinging her shield to the left, she knocked her opponent back. Frowning with anger, she spat out, "Filthy creature." Ashishier laughed mockingly, covering her mouth with her sharp hand, taking the insult in stride. Leaping downward, Ashishier taunted, "Did you really think a demon would fight fair?" Seething with righteous fury, Aquar raised her voice, "Holy Scripture, Chapter 1, Verse 1. Aquas, her voice burning with fury, recited Scripture, Chapter 1, Verse 1, "Let the radiant golden sanctuary be opened." The moment her words fell, a colossal golden magic circle blazed into existence before her. She whipped her head back and shouted to the others, "Get inside, now!" Without hesitation, the soldiers scrambled into the protective circle. Behind them, the blond man burst out laughing in sheer relief. A young swordsman stumbled in, breathless, bowing his head. "Thank you, Lady Aquas." Across the battlefield, Ashethiar's lips curved into a sly, mocking smile. "Heh," she chuckled. "You would squander the sacred scripture so recklessly." Veins bulged across Aquas's face as her rage spiked. "Shut your mouth," she screamed, charging at her opponent once more. Ashethiar's expression was calm, almost delighted. "Yes," she purred, "that is the kind of reaction I wanted." The two clashed again, hurling themselves at each other like moths to flame, spears gripped tight in their hands. Aquas swung her weapon in a fierce, straightforward strike, but Ashishier parried with ease. In a fluid motion, she twisted and flipped through the air, landing lightly while Aquas's eyes widened in disbelief. Ashethiar's voice carried like venom, "Death is just death." No one will remember your so-called noble sacrifice. Her words pressed in, seeking to grind down Aqua's will. Yet Aqua's did not falter. She pressed forward, unleashing blow after blow, her spear carving arcs of resistance through the air. But none of her strikes left so much as a scratch. Then Ashishier laughed again, cruel and confident. If this drags on, you will lose. And when you do, your god's honor will be dragged through the mud. But if you defeat me and live, both your name and your god's renown will soar. It is simple, just dispel that holy barrier protecting them. What do you say? Aqua's grip tightened, her eyes sharp. You think I will fall for that trick? She spat. Ashishier only covered her mouth with a delicate hand, smiling sweetly. Do you truly want to die here? Nothing you say is worth hearing, Aqua's growled, raising her weapon. Good, Ashishier replied, nodding with malicious satisfaction. Then die a martyr's death. With those words, she shot upward, gathering immense force before slamming it down toward the village below. The earth ruptured under the impact, stone and soil shattering into fragments. Within the cataclysm, Aqua's braced herself, every muscle straining against the crushing pressure. From above, Ashishier poured even more power into the strike, her dark aura crackling. Aqua's eyes suddenly widened. Danger was upon her. Before she could fully process it, Ashishier was right in front of her, closing the distance at a terrifying speed. What? Aqua's cried, but the rest was lost in a thunderous explosion as their clash detonated. She barely managed to leap back in time, skidding across the ground before coming to a halt, chest heaving, eyes locked in shock at the figure before her. Ashishier pressed forward relentlessly, giving her no chance to recover. From her hands burst a storm of black energy, countless streaks lancing outward like a net, hemming Aqua's in on all sides. Surrounded, Aqua's gaze darted wildly, panic flickering across her features before she cried out with all her might, "Radiant Sanctuary, drive back the darkness." Ashishier struck again before Aqua's could even finish her incantation. In a flash, she shot upward, seized Aqua's by the head, and snarled, "Enough. I do not want to hear another holy verse out of your mouth." With those words, she hurled Aqua's body to the ground, drawing a cry of pain as the earth beneath her shattered into fragments. Aqua's writhed, struggling to break free, but escape was impossible. Ashethiar's other hand summoned a black spear, its aura drenched in malice, poised to deliver the finishing blow. Feeling the imminent danger, Aqua's forced her arm clutching the shield to move. Just as the spear shot forward, she thrust the shield up, barely intercepting the fatal strike. The impact shook the air itself, sending violent tremors rippling through the battlefield. Aqua's strained desperately, her shield groaning under the crushing force. Cracks began to spread across its surface. Seeing this, Ashethiar's lips curled into a mocking, exhilarated smile. With a surge of power, she shattered the shield completely, blasting Aqua's backward with a strangled cry of pain. With a snap of her fingers, Ashishier conjured dark tendrils that writhed around her body, then shot forward, lashing around Aqua's like serpents and binding her tight. Outside the collapsing barrier, gasps erupted as the radiant shield that had been protecting the others fractured with alarming speed. Within seconds, it shattered to dust. The blonde youth staggered forward in horror, shouting, "Impossible! At this rate, we are all going to die." Ashishier only chuckled cruelly, her voice a blade dipped in mockery. "I will savor you lot as dessert, but first, I want to know what the Hound of God tastes like." Her tongue flicked out, her sharp fangs gleaming as she lowered her mouth toward Aqua's pale throat. But just before she could sink her teeth in, a hand clamped firmly down on her shoulder from behind. A calm voice rang out, "That is enough." The sudden intrusion froze Ashishier in place. She turned slightly, stunned, only to find Kettle standing there. His expression was cool, his words flat but resolute, "You have done enough." Aqua's eyes flew wide. "What?" she gasped, her thoughts racing in disbelief. "When did he even get here? How could I not sense his presence at all?" Her bewilderment barely had time to settle before Kettle, with effortless strength, flung Ashishier upward like she weighed nothing more than a rag doll. She spun through the air until her head pointed earthward, then crashed down with devastating force, the impact ripping the ground apart in a violent eruption. Handling the situation as though it were nothing, Kettle strode toward Aqua's and extended a hand to her. "Are you all right?" he asked simply. Aquas, still stunned, gazed up at him, her mind spinning. That is him. The man who defeated Sword Saint Khan, a warrior of superhuman rank. But before the silence could settle, a guttural growl erupted from the side, low and furious, cutting through the air. Ashishier had already recovered from the brutal slam, her rage boiling over. "You arrogant wretch," she screamed. "How dare you interfere with my meal?" Kettle, arms crossed and voice calm, replied, "She is my friend. I can't let her die." His words only stoked her fury. Grinding her teeth, Ashishier hissed, "At first, I was going to keep you as a plaything." Kettle cut her off with a flat, unyielding tone. "But I have no interest in being your toy." That blunt rejection did not discourage her, instead, it seemed to delight her. Ashethiar's lips twisted into a wicked grin. "Oh, is that so?" She stretched out her hand, conjuring a jagged, sinister weapon that gleamed with killing intent. "Then you will die here today." The tension crackled between them until Aquas forced herself upright, her voice hoarse but commanding. "Stay back." She staggered, her body trembling, eyes locked on the demon before them. "You can't defeat a demon." But Kettle's calm voice interrupted her, warning. "You know I am pretty strong." Aquas shook her head fiercely, her voice trembling with both fear and conviction. "No. This is not about strength. Only divinity can banish demons from this world. No other force can accomplish that. This law was set from the beginning, when gods and demons first coexisted. And here, this place, it is demon territory. There is no room for luck. Only the gods can stand against demons." Kettle stroked his chin, pondering her words for a moment. Then his gaze shifted back to her, a trace of concern in his eyes. "You do not look like you are in any shape to fight." Aquas's whole body shook, her breaths ragged, yet her voice rang steady. "I must. I serve the divine, and I will stand against evil." Her unwavering determination made Kettle pause. "So this is the will of one who serves the gods," he thought. Stepping closer, he reached out, rested his hand gently on her head, and said softly, "Impressive. But this time, let me handle it." Before she could respond, he walked past her, striding directly toward Ashishier under her stunned gaze. His tone was steady, almost casual. "I have always wanted to fight a real demon." Ashishier sneered, her voice thick with derision. "You still do not get it. I told you can't win against me." Kettle's lips curved into a confident smile. "Want to test that theory?" The unexpected challenge thrilled her. She licked her lips, her expression gleeful. "Ha, I can't wait to see your face twisted in agony." The words had barely left her mouth when her figure vanished, slipping through a rift in space. In the blink of an eye, she reappeared directly before Kettle, lunging with predatory speed and absolute confidence. From the sidelines, Aquas's eyes went wide. She screamed, helpless, "No." Ashethiar's grin widened, relishing the moment, certain she would crush him in a single strike. Kettle's hand, however, tightened into a fist. In her mind, she was already savoring her victory until reality shattered it. Kettle's fist drove forward, calm yet devastating, colliding with her face. It was not an explosive blow, but a simple, clean strike enough to obliterate her head, reducing it to fragments in an instant. On the outside, Aquas stood frozen in disbelief, her body rigid, her mind struggling to grasp what she had just witnessed. She thought to herself in disbelief, shattering a demon's head with a single punch. Does he think he is One Punch Man? A demon's skull reduced to fragments just by a bare-handed strike, how could that even be possible? Even Kettle himself seemed stunned by what he had just done. He stared down at his small hands, murmuring with a wry smile, "Not bad at all, huh?" Ashethiar's body crashed lifelessly onto the ground with a dull thud, but almost immediately, something happened that made Kettle's eyes widen in shock. A violent aura burst forth from her body, radiating an overwhelming surge of energy. Within seconds, her head, obliterated just moments ago, reformed completely, as if nothing had ever happened. Kettle's lips curled into a grin, his voice brimming with excitement. Well, even shattered to pieces, and you can still regenerate." Ashishier, now glaring at him with raw fear in her eyes, demanded, "What in the world are you?" Caught off guard, Kettle stammered, I am just an ordinary barbarian." His clueless expression only enraged her further. Grinding her teeth, she spat, "Do not be ridiculous. What is this feeling? I can't sense an ounce of divinity from him. He is not using aura, nor is he wielding magic. Then what? Her eyes narrowed, a killing light flashing within them. There is only one way to know for sure. A spatial circle flared open behind Kettle, drawing his attention. Ashishier lunged through it, scythe raised high. Die, you bastard, she shrieked. Her current form was frustratingly human, but she would make do. Kettle, however, did not even flinch. As she closed in, his fist shot forward, piercing straight through her chest. Her scream ripped out, her eyes widening in shock, her lips frozen in a twisted grin. He yanked his hand free, flinging her body across the street. She slammed into the side of a nearby house with a sickening crash, coughing up a mouthful of blood before collapsing to her knees. Her thoughts spiraled in chaos. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Just a single punch, no aura, no magic, nothing but raw force. Kettle, meanwhile, was practically glowing with amusement. Instant regeneration, huh, he mused aloud, his eyes locked onto hers. Their gazes clashed, sparking like flint and steel. Then his voice cut through the tension, brimming with curiosity. So what is the principle behind it? Before Ashishier could even draw breath, Kettle stomped hard against the ground. The earth splintered beneath him as he propelled forward like a cannon shot, his speed explosive. Across from him, Ashethiar's face blanched with fear. Panicked, she summoned another weapon, but before she could even raise it, Kettle was already upon her. His fist drove into her cheek with bone-crushing force. Her jaw shattered, teeth scattering as if pulverized for porridge. The brutal downward strike sent her skull slamming into the ground once again, snuffing her life out a second time. Yet even as her body went limp, countless streams of demonic energy surged around her, weaving themselves back into her broken form. Kettle's eyes widened in awe, then lit with exhilaration. Within seconds, she was whole again, reborn through the abyssal energy that clung to her like a curse. Far from disheartened, the sight only fueled his excitement. He said, so if the head is shattered, a brand new one just grows back. Right, if you were a demon, you would better have something like that going for you. So your weak spot is up there on your head, is it? He finished, and the helplessness in Ashishier made her tremble with fury. A murderous light flashed in her eyes. Ridiculous, she thought. You intend to face me with brute strength, or do you mean you won't even bother using your full power against me? After a moment she spat. Listen well. I am Ashishier, demon of gravity. Do you really think simple strength is enough to stand against me? Her words hit like water off a duck's back to Kettle. He did not understand a damn thing. He answered casually, meh. You do not look all that special. Those words landed like an ice-cold splash straight to her face. Ashishier froze. She snapped, furious, what? My pride as a demon is being insulted. Then she roared. You want to die, and lunged at him again. This time she summoned a war hammer and swung it straight at his face. The strike carried so much force her motion sent Kettle's hair streaming, but he simply reached out and blocked the blow with one calm hand. Ashethiar's expression stiffened even more. He nodded once, approvingly. Not bad. You have got some skill. But you still won't win like that. The hammer trembled in her grip under his pressure. With a casual squeeze he crushed it into splinters, then followed up with another affectionate punch to her cheek. The result was the same as before, her head shattered into pieces. This is absurd, she thought. This time her regeneration was faster than the prior one. Furious, she raged inwardly, I am the demon of gravity. If I go all out I can concentrate the weight of a whole wall into this hammer. And you did not just block it with your bare hands, you shattered it. A lowly Mandi like you, with no mystic mastery, she trembled with indignation. It could not be. She erupted with a massive surge of power that made the air itself quake. Die, you Mandi, she screamed, unleashing countless black streams of demonic energy toward him. Kettle remained unfazed, hands clenched. He threw another punch that tore through and dispelled the incoming assault with ease. His blow punched through the lingering energy and slammed toward where Ashishier stood. The collision produced an enormous explosion of dust and smoke. From a distance, watching this brutal display, Aquas blinked in disbelief. What on earth am I seeing? Ashishier, a demon of terrible power, who once could level kingdoms centuries ago, being pounded to pieces by plain, unadorned punches. This is insane. Her body reformed once more. Kettle approached and casually planted a boot on her face. So she does not die easily, he said. Which means you can't kill this demon with mere physical strength alone. Even after taking such a beating, Ashishier still wore a smug grin. This is the first time I have felt such pressure. He was strong, overwhelmingly so. She suddenly burst out laughing. Ha ha, what the hell are you? Kettle only repeated his earlier words, calm as ever. I am just an ordinary barbarian. Ashishier snapped back, furious, do not spout nonsense. Her smile twisted. Still, I feel a little better now, but I want to try something. As soon as she spoke, countless streams of black energy erupted from the ground, shooting past Kettle and into the sky, all converging at a single point. Both he and Aquas looked up, wide-eyed. The earth cracked apart beneath them, stone rising into the air under a crushing pull. Above, a massive orb of magic swirled into existence, rotating with terrifying force. At its center hovered Ashishier, wings spread wide, radiating overwhelming pressure. Around her, dozens of spectral spears appeared. Fixing her gaze on him, she screamed, "Barbarian, I will unleash my full strength upon you." The spears moved as if alive, spinning in the air before locking onto him and hurtling downward. In answer, Kettle drew his axe from his dimensional storage, resting it on his shoulder with a confident smile. The full strength of a demon, is it? Watching from below, Aquas broke into a cold sweat. This is too dangerous. You can't face a demon with brute force alone. Ashethiar's lips curled into a triumphant smile. Spears of ruin pierce and destroy. At her command, the sky rained spears, each one tearing through the air like lightning. Yet Kettle remained calm, unflinching. When the weapons came within inches of his body, he swung his axe again and again, batting every single spear aside with ease. It was like watching him play. Ashethiar's jaw dropped. What? What is this? This can't. She did not even have time to finish before Kettle shot forward, closing the distance in a blink. Sweat poured down her face as fear gripped her. Then, from outside the battlefield, Aquas shouted, Kamen, Chapter 3, Verse 58, light that burns away all evil. At once, Kettle's black axe blazed with radiant light, glowing a brilliant gold. Startled, Kettle muttered, "What is this? Is this the power of a god?" From below, Aquas yelled, "I have gathered enough divine energy, strike down the demon now." His eyes hardened, and he said coldly, "I wanted to watch a little longer, but it seems I can't. You were fun, demon." With those words, he swung the axe in a single, devastating arc. The blow was so swift Ashishier could not dodge. Her eyes widened in disbelief. What is this? The radiant strike cleaved her body clean in two. Her scream tore through the air, full of despair and unwillingness. Have I truly lost? Her voice faded into a final, wretched cry as the demon was split apart. After she exhaled her final breath, her body slowly dissolved into the air, fading from this world. Kettle stepped forward and sat down, murmuring gently as if in farewell, "Thank you. That was an enjoyable fight." Even in defeat, Ashishier managed a strained smile. Ha ha. What a pity to be forcefully banished back to hell like this. But it was not all in vain. I have confirmed that someone like you exists in this land. Her eyes glimmered as she asked, "What is your name?" He answered without hesitation, "I am Kettle." Beside him, Aquas flinched in horror, shouting, "Do not say it," but it was already too late. The moment the words left his lips, Ashethiar's grin warped into pure madness. Ha ha ha, all denizens of hell, etch into your souls the name of the barbarian Kettle. Aquas's body trembled uncontrollably, her voice caught in her throat as dread washed over her. The summons rippled through the abyss, and countless demons received the call. Their voices echoed like a chorus of glee. Ah, we inherit, we devour memory. We witness it. The one known as Kettle. A tide of demons materialized before him, so sudden that Kettle froze for a moment in surprise. Then they surged toward him like a raging flood, pouring into his body. Ashishier laughed with wild delight. Ha ha ha, barbarian, now you belong to us. One after another, the demons burrowed inside him. Kettle's consciousness was wrenched into a spiritual void, where he found himself surrounded by innumerable, hypnotic eyes staring at him. Yet strangely, their bewitchment had no effect. His mind was immune. The demons could not invade his thoughts. His hand lashed out instinctively, reaching to seize them, and terror flashed across their collective gaze. They tried to flee. Gradually, Kettle's awareness returned. His eyes opened slowly, and nothing had happened. He turned to Ashishier with a bewildered look. What the hell was that? It felt like something just passed through me. Ashethiar's smile faltered, anger rising in her chest. What? Impossible. The darkness should have flowed from him into me. Before she could utter a word, Kettle casually raised his foot and stomped down, sending her back to hell once more. The motion was so simple, so unhesitating, that Aqua's jaw dropped in disbelief. She stood frozen, mouth agape, as though witnessing a statue come to life. Kettle stretched out his arms, humming softly under his breath, a low tune after such a grueling battle. The darkness that had cloaked the land slowly lifted, revealing the clear blue sky it once had. Breathing in the crisp, restored air, Kettle smiled with satisfaction. Mission accomplished, huh? Time flowed like water as the scene shifted to the kingdom of Gahante, specifically the Barca territory. By now, word of the previous battle with Ashishier had spread everywhere. Extra, breaking news, a young boy shouted as he flung newspapers in every direction, with the townsfolk eagerly snatching them up to catch the latest updates. Naturally, as the lord of the territory, Lord Barca had received the news long before. After finishing the article, he slammed his fist on the table, his voice thundering with rage. A demon, after the Lich Ashishier appeared. What in the world is happening? Why has such a calamity descended upon this small land? Then he collapsed into his chair, blankly staring ahead as confusion swirled in his mind. A monster whose name was etched even in ancient tomes, across from him, a soldier cautiously reminded the Lord. The rumors are spreading like wildfire across the entire domain. A bead of sweat trickled down Barca's face as worry gnawed at him. He thought to himself, the only stroke of luck in this disaster is that the sun god's inquisitor managed to drive it away. With that thought, he lowered his tone and gave a grim order: we must think carefully about our next move. Elsewhere, Kettle was in the guest room of the white-haired priestess. Aquas. It looks like the entire territory is in turmoil, he remarked casually. Aquas, meanwhile, could only sympathize with Lord Barca's plight. Of course. This is not a small matter. The Lord must be racking his brain over it. She then rose to her feet, clearly preparing to leave. This piqued the curiosity of our protagonist, prompting him to caution her. Do not tell me you are planning to go right now. Should not you rest a bit before heading out? Aquas shook her head, her snowy hair swaying with the motion. I can't. I am not allowed to delay. I have to report this to the Holy Land as soon as possible. Hearing this, the large-framed man did not bother to stop her. If that is what you want, then I won't stand in your way. Before leaving, Aquas hesitated for a moment, her expression softening as she spoke with genuine gratitude. Kettle. Thank you for saving my life. If not for you, I would have ended up as a plaything for that demon. Her voice overflowed with sincerity, but Kettle waved it off, unfazed. No need to thank me. I just saved a friend, that is all. Oh, right, we are friends now, are not we? He said with a sheepish smile, scratching his cheek awkwardly. Aquas, for her part, found herself momentarily unsettled by the idea of a barbarian and a servant of the gods being friends. After a brief silence to collect herself, she finally asked, I am the sun god's inquisitor. And even so, you still want to be friends with me? Kettle answered without hesitation. Is there any reason I should not? The unexpected reply made Aquas's eyes light up. Ah no, but... She began, only to be cut off by Kettle's easygoing voice. Then it is not a problem, right? Aquas fell silent again, but soon a small smile curved her lips. She nodded. You are right. Setting that aside, the protagonist suddenly recalled something and asked, by the way, there is something else I want to know. Is it true that we are not supposed to tell demons our names? At the mention of that, the white-haired priestess's expression grew more serious, and she carefully explained, that is because the demonic brand uses one's name to carve a dark mark onto a person's soul. Through that mark, they can summon wicked spirits. Anyone branded becomes like a scent trail, radiating an odor that draws malicious beings. According to ancient tradition, those who bear the mark must undergo baptism to be saved, otherwise the dark forces will hunt them down and destroy them. Across from her, the big man's face slackened as if struck dumb. Pointing to himself, he asked, "Wait, so does that mean I have already been branded?" Fortunately for him, Aquas quickly shook her head. No, no, it is not like that. You have not been marked, Kettle. However, your name might already be known to certain entities in the underworld. But even so, there is no need to panic. Without the brand, they can't locate you. They may know your identity, but they can't track you down unless they meet you face to face. Aside from that, there is nothing to worry about. Her voice softened as she reassured him. Though Kettle admitted to being wary of those pesky demons, he could not help but be surprised by their strange abilities. So that is how it is. Remarkable. I did not think you could deal with them using nothing but physical strength. To clarify, Aquas began to explain what she knew. That is the very nature of demons. Long ago, the supreme gods created mankind. Humans were foolish, frail, driven only by instinct, but the gods did not interfere in the human world. Because of this, beings from beyond grew fascinated with mankind. They crossed dimensions and slaughtered humans mercilessly. In the end, the gods could not tolerate it any longer. They descended into the human world, sided with mankind, named those beings demons, and drove them out. From then on, humans built temples to honor the gods who had saved them, thriving under divine guidance. But as time passed, for reasons unknown, demons began to reappear and interfere in the human realm. So the gods chose the faithful, bestowed them with power, and charged them to continue the fight. Demons are creatures that can only be destroyed by divine force. At this, Kettle's thick skull finally started to piece things together. I see. They do not belong to this world, so they can't be destroyed by ordinary means. Aquas nodded in agreement, adding, exactly. They were never beings of this world to begin with. Kettle furrowed his brows, muttering, I get it now. If those things showed up often, it really would be a nightmare. Hearing that, the white-haired priestess shook her head lightly. Demons with names do not just appear so easily. It seems the demon realm supposed to be sealed away is exerting its influence once more. The cycle of dungeon birth has become irregular, and more dark entities are emerging into the human world. Everything began about a year ago. Her voice was heavy with foreboding. Even Kettle, upon hearing it, felt as though lightning had struck his skull. He thought to himself, a year ago, if it was a year ago. Was not I on assignment in the frozen lands at that time? Setting that matter aside, Aquas clearly wanted to put an end to the discussion about demons. We have talked long enough. Thank you, Kettle, but I must be on my way. If you ever have the chance, come visit us, we would be more than happy to welcome you. Seeing her resolve, Kettle did not try to drag the conversation on. He simply nodded. I would like that too. Not long after, the carriage escorting Aquas departed swiftly for the holy temple. Yet even as she sat within, the weight of that named demon lingered heavily in her mind. Her body had not yet fully recovered, but there was no room for hesitation. This was something that needed to be reported to the temple without delay. All throughout the journey, however, one question gnawed at her thoughts. Why has the sun god never delivered an oracle concerning that barbarian? The more she pondered it, the darker her expression became. Cain strode down the sunlit corridor, his steps heavy with fatigue. He let out a long, weary sigh. Meeting His Majesty always left him utterly drained. Just as he was about to relax, a voice echoed behind him, low, calm, and unfamiliar. Cain froze, his eyes widening. Great, it seems today won't be a peaceful day after all. Startled, he spun around to see a man cloaked entirely in black standing just a few paces away. Cain blinked, momentarily dazed, trying to process what he was seeing. The Archmage of the Tower of Sorcery, the very place where all the world's sorcerers and enchanters gather. The Tower Master himself. He cleared his throat, forcing composure. What brings you here, my lord? The cloaked man replied evenly, you already know. Just the usual periodic contact. But what about you? What are you doing here? Cain turned his face aside. I came to report the results of my mission. The man stroked his chin, his tone probing. The reconnaissance mission in the demon realm, correct, the silent forest, where even sound itself dies out. Yes, Cain admitted. How was it? The other pressed. A bead of sweat ran down Cain's temple as he lowered his head. It is. Beyond anything our understanding of the world can explain. A place of true horror. His mind conjured the haunting memory and oppressive darkness that devoured all sound. Just as its name suggested, the silent forest was utterly noiseless. Even magic-based sensory spells failed to function properly. No matter how loud I shouted, there was not even an echo. He recalled how, one by one, his soldiers had vanished without a trace. Before we realized it, our men started disappearing. One after another. The silence there. It was suffocating. Finally, he concluded with a grim expression. It is a place that makes your skin crawl. After a brief pause, Cain asked nervously, what exactly does His Majesty hope to achieve by conquering the demon realm anyway? The cloaked man smirked faintly. Perhaps he wants to rule the entire world. Who knows what kind of madness festers inside the mind of a man obsessed with power? He chuckled under his breath, then added, but I will admit the demon realm is quite an intriguing place. Crossing his arms, the man's eyes gleamed. I might even say, I am a little curious myself. Cain frowned, still dead serious. Well, I want nothing to do with it. I prefer a normal, peaceful life. The cloaked man snapped his fingers. In an instant, a glowing azure magic circle flared beneath them. Cain blinked and suddenly, they were both standing within a massive blue array. Cain tensed, scanning the surroundings. Teleportation magic. What the why all of a sudden? The man in black smiled pleasantly. No need to be so formal. He took a slow step forward. Then, in a tone that was almost casual, he asked, you have met someone rather special recently. Have not you? Cain's body stiffened instantly. What? How could you possibly know that? Yet the man in the black cloak seemed utterly unfazed, smiling with effortless ease, as if Cain's agitation were nothing more than a passing breeze. Cain clenched his fists and snapped, damn it. The eye of observation, you have put that thing on me again, have not you? The cloaked figure's grin widened, his eyes narrowing in amusement. Ever since our last meeting, he said cheerfully. It is one of the few pleasures an old man like me still has left. Go to hell, Cain barked, glaring at him. The man merely lowered his head slightly and replied, if I have already seen everything, what is the point of asking? Still, I would like to hear it from you directly, your thoughts, Cain. Then his expression shifted, growing dark and dangerous. Tell me what you think. About that man, the one I believed to exist only in ancient legend. The savage from the snow-covered north. Cain's face tensed. He hesitated before admitting in a low, uncertain tone, I am still not entirely sure. The cloaked man's voice hardened. Think carefully. Crossing his arms, he began explaining, a barbarian capable of defeating a sword saint and wiping out the Lich Kartos as if swatting flies and emerging from some remote, frozen wasteland. Does not that strike you as suspicious? Cain suddenly looked up. Wait, did you just say he defeated Kartos? The man blinked, momentarily surprised. You did not know. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Ah, right. That detail has not been made public yet. After a brief pause, he continued, still, rumors have already started circulating within the Tower of Sorcery. He went on, his tone both nostalgic and grim. Kartos the sorcerer who once shook the entire continent. I heard he tried to resurrect himself somewhere in the outer region, but failed. So I went there myself. To pay my respects. A shadow crossed his face. He was one of the few liches who could call me a friend. His passing is rather sad, I must admit. Cain gave a dry, cutting remark. Did not think someone like you even knew how to feel sad. The man chuckled softly, though his voice carried a hint of sincerity. Of course I do. Friendship is one of the few things that still mattered to someone who has lived as long as I have. However, at that moment, his once handsome face began to dissolve, the illusion fading until only a grinning skull remained beneath the hood. No one ever found a single relic in that Lich's dwelling, you know. Cain frowned. Were not all of Kartos's belongings recovered after his death? The man nodded slowly. For the most part, yes. But a sly gleam lit his empty sockets. The most valuable treasure of all, that one still missing. Who knows where it might be now? Then, as if dismissing the matter entirely, he waved a skeletal hand. But let us set that aside for now. His tone sharpened once more. I want your opinion, Kane. He leaned forward slightly. Do you truly believe that Barbarian could have defeated Kartos? Kane thought for a long moment, then exhaled. If it is that man we are talking about, I would say it is possible. The cloaked figure tilted his head, intrigued. Now that you mention it, do not tell me you still have not reported this to His Majesty. Kane calmly replied, and why exactly should I? The man in the black cloak immediately answered, his tone turning sharp. Because that fool of an emperor keeps throwing away precious manpower into the demon realm like he is tossing out garbage. If he were to learn of that barbarian's existence, Kane interjected coldly, then a clash would be inevitable. The cloaked figure paused mid-sentence, his expression thoughtful. A barbarian who acts on pure instinct and an emperor who desires to seize the entire world for himself. If those two were to meet, the kingdom would be dragged straight into chaos. A grin slowly crept onto the man's skeletal face. Is that so? Sounds rather exciting. He took a few leisurely steps forward, his cloak whispering across the stone floor. So what you are suggesting, Kane, is that this barbarian might be capable of standing alone against an empire. Kane hesitated, his brows knitting. I can't say for sure. But. His tone turned grave, deeper than before. When I saw him, I felt something. Something eerily similar to what I felt the first time I laid eyes on you. The cloaked man stiffened in shock. Do not tell me, he asked quickly, his voice dropping to a low rasp. You mean a hero class? Cold sweat trickled down Kane's temple. I am not qualified to make that kind of judgment. The man rubbed his chin, a strange light flickering in his hollow sockets. Still, he is valuable. Incredibly so. Then, with a chilling edge in his voice, he added, perhaps even more than that. Kane's face paled. Do not tell me you are planning to. Before he could finish, the scene shifted. It was a bright morning in the Barkan territory, within the kingdom of Gente. A gentle-looking blonde girl was walking down the cobblestone street, glancing around curiously. Suddenly, her foot caught on a small stone lying in her path. She gasped, stumbling forward, her face blanching in panic. But before she could hit the ground, a steady hand caught her by the arm. A handsome young man smiled down at her. Oh dear, you should really be more careful. It was Kettle. His tone was kind as he asked, are you all right? The blonde girl stared at him wide-eyed, saying nothing at first. Then, as realization flickered across her face, Kettle felt his stomach tighten. She is probably going to run away, he thought grimly. But to his surprise, the girl merely bowed politely. Thank you. She turned and walked away, leaving Kettle standing there, dumbfounded. He watched her departing figure, confusion twisting in his chest. What is this strange feeling? Then, before he could make sense of it, another beautiful girl appeared before him. Kettle froze on the spot, completely thrown off by the sudden encounter. As he stood there, stunned, one troubling question echoed in his mind. Why? Why does not anyone stay away from me anymore? Sunlight streamed faintly through the window, casting a soft glow across the quiet room. A cup of tea sat neatly on the table, long since gone cold. Luke Barkan sat upon his throne, his expression a mixture of concern and authority. Are you feeling all right? He asked, his voice gentle but probing. I heard you were almost marked by a demon. Kettle, sitting calmly across from him, replied honestly, there is nothing wrong with me. To be honest, I do not even know what that mark was supposed to be. Luke Barkan looked momentarily awkward, his lips parting as if searching for words. After a pause, he merely said, I see. Yet inside, unease stirred. I know he is strong. But even so. His thoughts trailed off as he spoke again, more deliberately this time. It seems the world around you has started to change. Seated opposite him, separated by a long table, Kettle looked directly into the Lord's eyes. You mean? The people. The people of the territory, Luke confirmed with a quiet sigh. He began explaining the situation earnestly. It must be because of the rumors. The surviving guards and mercenaries who returned spread the story everywhere. One person told another, and the tale grew out of control. He recounted the gossip that now filled the streets. They say that after Aquaz was defeated, everyone collapsed except one man who remained standing. When they came to, your axe was glowing with a divine light. Those who witnessed it were utterly stunned. They began to believe that a Quaz had entrusted you with divine power. Now they call you, the one who fought beside a Quaz against the demon. Word has spread far and wide your name and Aquazes are now spoken together everywhere you go. Kettle listened quietly, his face unreadable. When Luke finished, he muttered with mild indifference, so that is what this is about. Luke Barkhan lowered his head slightly, guilt flickering across his face. I apologize for the misunderstanding. I tried to correct it, but by the time I realized how far the rumor had spread, it was already too late. Kettle leaned back, piecing together the strange reactions he would encountered lately. A faint realization crossed his face as he said lightly, no wonder. That must be why people do not avoid me anymore. Luke remained tense, his head still bowed. That is probably it. They see you now as the one who stands against demons. He hesitated at the end, as if unsure whether to continue. Even so, Kettle understood what the man was implying. He pressed his lips together in silence, then finally spoke, his tone steady. The one who stands against demons, huh? I guess that means I have a bit of a reputation now. At that moment, Rosa sat upright in her wooden chair, her bright expression beaming like sunlight. Congratulations, Sir Kettle, she said cheerfully. You have been promoted, you are now ranked C. Kettle blinked, stunned. Rank C, he repeated blankly. After a pause, he frowned in confusion. Wait, does that mean I jumped 3 whole ranks? Rosa tilted her head, realizing he still did not quite grasp it, and replied honestly, well, you did accomplish something worthy of that rank, after all. It took a moment for her words to sink in, but when they did, Kettle suddenly burst into laughter, his voice filled with unrestrained delight. Excellent. Rosa neatly stacked the last of the documents, her tone brisk yet gentle as she reminded him, your mercenary insignia will also be reissued. Since it will be custom designed for you, it might take a little while to finish. Kettle let out a few cheerful, half-crazed laughs before collecting himself and asking seriously, even the insignia has to be specially designed for me. Rosa explained patiently, that is right. From rank C onward, you are officially recognized by the Mercenary Guild as a certified mercenary. Naturally, you will be treated accordingly. She went on to list the privileges that came with his promotion. As a rank C, you are allowed to access nearly all zones. You should not face any restrictions entering most capital cities or sacred temples. Then she chuckled and added, well except for the imperial capital, of course. Kettle, ever the reasonable man, merely commented with a mild smile, the empire's always been strict. Exactly, Rosa agreed, only those acknowledged by the nobility can enter the imperial capital. But as she said it, her voice softened and she leaned closer, lowering her tone to a whisper. Truth is, no one really knows what goes on inside that city. All we ever hear are grim rumors. Honestly, there is less information about the imperial capital than there is about the demon realm. Kettle blinked in disbelief. It is that bad. Realizing she might have said too much, Rosa cleared her throat, looking a bit embarrassed. Then she brightened up again, changing the subject. Anyway, since you are rank C now, you can accept most of the missions available and even enter an A-rank dungeon, as long as you are part of a team. Kettle let out a small, indifferent chuckle. Is that so? But deep down, his heart stirred with excitement. An A-rank dungeon. That means I will have the chance to take on all kinds of missions. The more he thought about it, the wider his grin became, until a bright, genuine smile spread across his face. Across the tavern table, Paladin Alessandro Tiranu choked mid-drink, spraying beer everywhere before blurting out, I can't believe that actually happened. Setting his mug down with a thud, he turned to Kettle with interest. So, is everything settled now? Kettle crossed his arms casually and replied, the demon's been taken care of. The Inquisitor of the Sun confirmed it, so I suppose everything's fine. Alessandro nodded, giving a short grunt of approval. Good. That is a relief. Beside him, Cassin Hark leaned forward curiously. Still, that Inquisitor of the Sun is truly incredible. To defeat a demon like that. He trailed off hesitantly, unsure how to continue. Priest Hayes, sitting silently nearby, clenched her hands in her lap. Her face tensed, a troubled look shadowing her eyes. No, she thought, that is not what happened. Her brows furrowed slightly as she recalled that day in vivid detail. I was not unconscious. That is why I saw it clearly with my own eyes. He was not just strong. He completely overwhelmed a named demon. In her memory, Kettle stood with ruthless composure, his expression cold and unyielding. The heavy axe rested on his shoulder, glinting menacingly in the crimson light, as he ground